Okay, welcome back to SculptSpace. In this episode, we're going to be making the plastic cast of this Hedwig mold that we made in the last episode. So we're going to need some of this smooth on resin, and we're going to need to mix it up and put it in here. But first step is I'm going to show you guys what to do with cornstarch. So get you some cornstarch if you're following along. If not, I'll just show you guys anyways. So let's get right into the video. It's wet, so it's not working super well. As you can see, I'm trying to dry out my mold. Okay, so my silicone mold is a little wet right now because of how I measured how much I needed. I used water, so it's still a little bit wet, and I would rather not pour cornstarch on it right now, but I'm still going to make a mold out of it. But how you would do cornstarch is just pour in a little bit at a time, and just sort of shake it around, beat on it, sort of like kind of like rotocasting. Sort of spin it around, make sure you get all the sides and all the crevices and cracks. And then get a trash can and just beat all the excess out. You should have like a thin coat of cornstarch, and that should help with some of the bubbles. But I don't have a lot of trouble with bubbles, so I'm just gonna skip that step right now so I can get this ready for you guys. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so we need 12 ounces of resin, so I'm pouring 6 of part A and with 6 of part B. Then you stir both of them together for about 20 to 30 seconds. And then it's time to pour it in. I pour about half of it in and then slosh it around. This just helps it stick to all the walls. And then it's time for me to get my popsicle stick to pop all those bubbles. And then we wait for it to harden. And just like that, it's a solid. So taking out this piece turned out to be harder than I expected, so I had to make some minor adjustments, cutting slits in it just so I can get it out, but I'll show you how to, seal it up to use it again later in the video. so this is our little guy right here. Came out pretty good, I would say, for the first one. So we're gonna sand just the bottom of him. This one should take no time at all since it's just the very bottom. It's a very small surface, so that should take no time. Here's the mold that it came out of. I had to kind of cut it like this just to get it out because there were some thicker pieces in the middle, which is gonna make it more difficult. But it's fine because I can got a vice grip, and like whenever I want to do a cast, I can put it on here and tighten it up so that nothing seeps through, and then sand off the imperfections. So now I'm gonna sand this and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I have germoed it, the bottom of it, I'm gonna go in with this sandpaper and just finish off all the rough edges. Pretty good. Now I'm going to come over with this little tool right here. This one's less gritty. It's going to smooth everything out. Give it a nice smooth finish. That is nice and smooth. I'm gonna rinse it off and then it's time to prime. See you there. Okay, so since the casting video was not as long as I thought it was gonna be, we're going to lump this painting in with the casting video. We're just gonna put it together. I'll put this at the end, showing you guys how to paint this guy. And I'll probably spray him with a matted finish, not a gloss like I normally do, maybe just a matte, just so it looks more lively. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to go over the colors and everything you'll need. So see you in a little bit. Alright, so to get this dark color that I want to get for the undertone, I'm going to be mixing a little bit of burnt umber with yellow ochre. So I'm covering most of the sculpture with this dark base color. I'm not covering up the scarf because we're not going to be dry brushing on that, so you can leave it without that base paint. And then I'm drying the base coat with my heat gun again. Okay, so now we're going to be dry brushing the feathers on. For this, I am using just a black with a little bit of titanium white, and we're going to be adding more white as we go on with this process. So I start off with a pretty light gray, and then as I hit the highlights, I'm going to be using an even lighter gray until I end up with white. just like a snow owl. And I'm just going to keep doing that along the entire sculpture. Now that I've gotten a color that I'm satisfied with, it's time to start on the scarf. Okay, so to get a more Harry Potter look, I'm going to be using a mixture of reds and yellows. So for the undertone, I'm going to be using a mixture of the cadmium red with quinacridone magenta and a little bit of burnt umber. And I'm just going to paint that along the entirety of the scarf. And then it's time to dry it off again with the heat gun. And now to get this goldish color, I'm going to be mixing up a little bit of cadmium yellow with the yellow ochre. And I'm getting a small to medium sized brush, and I'm just making a stripe pattern along the entire scarf. The distance between the lines don't really matter because there are wrinkles in the fabric, so it's going to just look a little bit more realistic if they're not super even. I thought it looked a little plain with the flat lines, so I went in with a more of a pinstripe sort of brush. And that's what I'm doing these little lines in between the stripes that I just did with. And I think that it adds a lot. Now that the scarf is done, it's time to move on to the feet. For the feet, I'm just putting black on the tips, I guess sort of the claws of it, and that's that. And the beak is also going to be just black. Now for the eyes, I'm starting off with just a black for the back. Going in with a white to make little swirls in the eyes, just to make it a little more cute. After that, I feel like it's still missing something, so I add a black outline to both of the eyes. And I think that helped it a lot. So we finished our little bird man here, Hedwig. I think he turned out pretty well. After painting him, I went over outside with a matte spray finish, and I just finished him off with some matte instead of gloss. And I think that really added a lot to it, to be honest. It really sealed everything in. But yeah, here's a little guy right here. I hope you guys enjoyed me painting and casting and doing all that with this little guy right here. So there's that. I'm also going to show you what we might be doing for our next episode, which is going to consist of sculpting something from my sketchbook here. And I thought, one of my friends, we had come up with a little story, sort of almost like a book, that we never got around to doing. But I just sketched out a couple characters from that story. I thought it might be cool to maybe sculpt these guys. I sculpt some of them. For instance, this one, my favorite. might do her. But look forward to that. I'll pick that. I'll tell you on my Instagram. So if you guys want to go in the description below and follow my Instagram and all that, you'll find out what we're doing next week. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.